I'm betting that most people have never heard about Sitka Blacktails or the American rainforest.
These deer are such an integral part of what Southeast Alaska is. I told Sophie about the best deer habitat that I know of in Southeast Alaska.
That there's a place that will blow my mind. You gotta really want to get there. You know, you have to earn it.
Are you going to Craig?
Please no, don't send me to Craig, Jim.
Thank you. So, are you ready to go to Nirvana?
Jim, I've been ready. So we get the full immersive bushwhack experience on the way up. All right. So Jim's been helping out with research projects on these deer for, it's gotta be over 20 years now, and I am just one of the scientists that he's helped.
ADF&G needed a hunter. They needed somebody who could dart. And I was able to give something back and putting 125 collars on Sitka Blacktail, which was the first study. And then Sophie came along in 2009, and we started working together in 2010. She had all the same kind of questions and searching for all the same kind of answers.
And having his local knowledge and capture and hunting expertise has been huge in getting our jobs done. Look at this, Jim.
Deer come in here in droves in the winter. To all of this vegetation that's growing on here is growing on an incredibly thin organic soil. This is what the entire productivity of this place,
wow, look at that,
is based off of.
So that's the soil right there. You just pulled it off.
I just pulled it off.
That's where the deer saddle bark comes from.
That's exactly
that
right.
1 inch of soil. And we've known each other, what, 8 years now since we've been working on research together? And you've been teaching me how to hunt for 6, and I'm not there yet. I first started realizing how critical hunting was to wildlife biology when I got this job as a PhD student. All the funding for what I did, all that financial support originally came from hunters. You know, when you talk about Sitka Blacktails with Jim, you can see his whole face just light up with how he feels about these animals.
Deer are a huge thing in the communities and have been for a long, long time.
I started to understand how important they were for locals in terms of hunting, harvest opportunity, culture, and I really wanted to get a better understanding of what that connection was, and it seemed like there would be no better way to do that than to learn how to hunt these deer. But I didn't grow up in a hunting family, and so for me, there was this big barrier to taking that next step, taking my knowledge forward to a new level and in a new direction. One
day she came and said, I want to learn to hunt these deer. And I hope that I've been able to help her gain a different appreciation for these deer through a hunter's eye.
Of all the populations of Sitka Blacktails in Southeast Alaska and Kodiak, you're the only one who's ever collared and studied.
Well, GPS collars, so modern technology, what
Right.
we think of as modern wildlife technology. My PhD was one of them.
Really?
Yeah, the other one was up on Chichikov.
And so what I would do during the winter is monitor those collars once or twice a week, so that when I got a mortality signal, we'd try to run in and find out why it died.
You could like figure out who did it, right?
CSI.
Yeah, it's deer CSI for sure. It really is.
Hard to believe 3 years ago we were sitting in the same beach at the same fire pit, Tyler.
Yeah, after I watched you and Jim whack giant bucks in 2 days. You know, I've been documenting hunting for literally my whole life. 3 years ago, Randy brought me up here to film him with a guy named Jim Baichtal.
Go ahead, shoot.
It was probably one of the most miserable hikes. You know, it didn't help for the fact that we got off trail. It took us over 6 hours to go 1.25 miles.
In that 6 hours, your mind goes from anticipation to frustration to doubt of whether or not you can do this again. Is it worth it? Unique places require unique effort.
Randy took a Boone and Crockett deer on his first Sitka Blacktail. Jim shot a muzzleloader record book deer, and we did all that in a day and a half. But it was such a small time that we got to spend in this, what Jim calls his deer nirvana. Jim said, you know what? You guys are invited back, but Tyler's hunting this time. Randy and I put our heads together. We knew we needed to make a film.
I remember that evening when we got off the mountain and my mind was wondering if I'd ever get back here. Getting a deeper understanding of the place and the deer.
So the route up to this place, it's a complicated terrain. You're working your way over these trees in an absolute sea of Devil's Club bare limestone that's really sharp. We know how to have fun. Vertical pits and sinkholes and stuff that you have to navigate around the edge of. I remember the logs, I remember the steps, I remember the puddle. I think I read the landscape the same way every single time I attack that landscape, and I tend to follow the same trail.
You know, I was tired, I was sweaty.
It's a slog, for a lack of a better term, to make it from the beach up to that. But as many things in life, those things that you have to strive hardest to achieve are sometimes worth that effort.
We have a nice trail.
Okay, we'll cut over there. I'm still going up this morning.
And then we came back down and we came off of yours and angled across here. This is the same trail we were on.
3 years ago.
3 years
Yeah,
ago.
and
I don't know, it's always last year.
Yeah, right.
Last time.
Last time.
Oh my gosh.
Dear God. Nirvana.
Yeah. Nirvana.
Thank you.
I just remember coming through the trees and breaking out into this incredible, like the world's biggest salad bowl. And you're inside of it, and the walls of the salad bowl just go up, and they're just green and covered in deer food. And I realized that my sliding scale from bad to good habitat, it just got pulled, and that good habitat endpoint just got completely redefined for me.
It's just as wonderful the fourth time as it was the first time. You can't believe where you're at.
My mentor through Alaska Department of Fish and Game said, you have to meet Jim. Your project is going to be so much more successful. He's been helping on deer research out here for 20 years. I've been doing what we call catch and release hunting for 3 summers, right? So we dart deer with a modified rifle. We had all these fawns collared. We had all these fawns collared on the landscape, and we needed to know, are they living or dying? And if they die, who kills them? Okay, he's still pretty little, but he gave me a run.
Oh, he's so cute.
He is so darn cute. She is a good mama, look at her. It's okay, mama. This is program behavior. You know, the funny thing is, even on this totally unnatural substrate, he's still pretty camouflaged.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if you did not know he was here and you were walking by, I doubt you'd even look over.
You know, and he's got to survive the black bears, crossing roads back and forth, and a myriad of other things.
Maybe a couple deep snow winters. They're so vulnerable at this age. There's so much that could happen to this animal before it grows up.
So you know that we take the time to go up to the alpine and in hopes of finding that other age class of animal. It's the pinnacle of what that species can achieve, and that I have the opportunity to pursue the best of the best.
Crazy to be right here at camp, glassing this many deer.
This is so amazing.
Jim had told me that I will be seeing so many quality bucks that it will blow my mind. But again, seeing is believing, right? You have to be there looking through the scope at big 3-point after big 3-point. Oh my gosh, there's the biggest 4x4 I have ever seen. They are just huge deer.
What's your first impression?
There's so many deer. It's ridiculous. I've never seen so many bucks in one place at the same time.
I had to see that to really understand how productive this landscape could be.
I got to take her to what I believe is the best piece of Sitka Blacktail habitat that exists in southeast Alaska. I haven't seen our drop time.
Jim, what's this deer on? It's right where our boy was yesterday.
I saw a 2-point last night go over the bridge, I think right up here. Geology is part of my job, and that's what took me to this ridge the very first time. But while doing that, there were these gigantic deer. It was important for me to have Sophie take a look at this landscape and get her impressions of, you know, the forage quality and what was going on up there. Focused research that helps us to understand these deer and their place on the landscape a little better.
Are those deer born and raised and live here, or do they transition as an older buck to live where there's such amazing forage and just stay here?
Female fawns learn from their moms, so they're going to pursue the pattern that their moms pursued. I would guess that the bucks are also going back to where they were born, but we don't know the answer. One of the things that gets me so excited about these deer is how little we know about them. We know so much about whitetail deer. We know a lot about mule deer, we know a lot about elk, but these deer are really a mystery deer. Almost all of the money that I use for research in my professional life comes from hunter dollars. Meeting a lot of other hunters who are like-minded and also passionate about the wildlife that they love to hunt and the future of those wildlife has really been a revelation for me, I'll be honest.
Good shot.
You got your hands full.
I do have my hands full. We got some meat to make.
Alaska's just a little bit more on the edge. It's, you know, making a living here is hard. Making sure that you can take advantage of that abundance on the landscape, the deer and the other natural food resources, really kind of fills in a critical gap for a lot of families.
We're 107 yards from him right now. The oldest Sitka Blacktail that we have is about 9,200 years old, which happens to correspond to a cultural site of the same age. So for 10,000 years, it's been an item that's put food on people's table. It's been part of the protein that people have consumed. We carry on that tradition today with what's called subsistence and a rural preference for the game that's on the landscape, and it's an important part of the diets of the people here. We also barter. There's folks out here that have incredible skills for shrimping and fishing, and I provide them deer and they provide my family seafood, and nothing more is asked of that.
We took off back to the alpine.
Good luck, guys. Good luck, Tyler.
Yeah, you got this.
I'm gonna tell you that that night was probably one of the most scenic, gorgeous, eye candy evenings of my hunting career.
That was him. I mean, that's world class right there. That's the one. Just not a good shot.
I didn't get a shot off on him, but I was right there. Eye to eye, he was very calm, and honestly, I thought we could get on him again. Little did we know that the weather was gonna get horribly, horribly bad.
The deer of the forest and the deer of the alpine spend most of their time in precipitation, whether it's rain, misty fog.
The rainforest that they live in depends on the rain. It'll shrivel up and blow away if we don't get enough rain.
This is a place that if you get a nice sunny day, it's like a rarity. It's not like you can just go there at any time. Without having good weather, hunting these deer is so much more difficult.
There he is. The weather just went 180. From beautiful blue to no visibility, spitting, blowing rain, wind, almost impossible hunting conditions.
We have precipitation here that ranges from 70 to over 200 inches per year, depending on where you're at on the Tongass, and there's deer within all of that landscape. They have to be out feeding in this stuff.
The weather just got worse and worse and worse, and the hunt was over.
we stay just a couple of days and it's this struggle to stay warm and dry and like get what you need. And you think about they're up here 24/7, out in this stuff, just making a living.
Literally out in this stuff in the alpine.
Yeah.
I mean, they're
bedded up there right now, chewing their cud, do a little foraging. Yeah, it's amazing.
I think one of the aspects too that people don't understand is we've came up through multiple elevations on this landscape. We've been in a lot of different habitats. All of that is modified by deer. If they weren't on the landscape, you couldn't bull your way through that stuff. It'd be way over our heads. Yeah. All of this stuff we see here, this is a result of deer on the landscape.
I'm excited to keep growing as a hunter, keep working with Jim and other hunters like him.
To watch her grow and progress as a hunter and her passion for that has been one of the most rewarding things I've been involved in.
I hope that I've also been able to offer a different take and a little bit of a different perspective on these deer through the lens of research and science.
I believe fervently that we need to give of ourselves to these animals that feed us. To give something back to those animals that give so much to myself and my family and the culture around on the island here.
In our changing modern world, how do we make sure that the things we care about and the places we care about are still there for us and our kids?
Southeast Alaska that we know today would not be the same without Sitka Blacktail deer.